the biggest emotional journey throughout this whole thing has been battling shit from my childhood that just kept on rearing its head again, that I thought I dealt with. You know, I've had lots of therapy over years, and I thought, no, that's all locked away neatly in a little box. But the moment you feel slightly exposed is it comes back up with, and for me, the things that I had going on was, no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to believe anything you've got to say. People are going to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. You're going to get rejected. I think it's really important that we're able to lean into that and work through stuff.
Welcome to the Holt Survival Guide for Small Businesses, Kate. It's so lovely to have you here, and thank you so much for making the chaotic journey up to Manchester to be here. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience to start off with?
Thanks, Leah. So I'm Kate Hughes. I run two businesses. I run Your Step Coach, which is a leadership development consultant and coaching business, and launching in 2 weeks a new business called Roam the Rainbow, which is an accessories business that I'm starting with my 12-year-old daughter.
I love that. Starting them young with the entrepreneurialism.
Absolutely.
It's brilliant. And I should probably introduce Bronson. Bronson is my emotional support co-host here, and he's been coming along to keep me company and show off how handsome he is on the podcast. So we worked together a fair few years ago now. What was it? Maybe 3 years ago?
It was about 2021.
Yeah, so a fair while ago. And I've watched you grow on social media, and I've watched your confidence grow with it and your business develop, and you become even more of a confident leader. I would love to talk to you a little bit more about, firstly, where you were before you decided to go it alone, because it's a scary step to make. So what was going on in your life when you made the change to self-employment?
So it wasn't actually an active choice to set up the business.
We hear that a lot.
Right? So obviously COVID in 2020, I was working as a leadership development consultant at the time. And
that was within a company?
That was within a company. It was within a fantastic performance consultancy, and I really loved it there. And because of COVID, they ended up doing quite a big restructure. So let go of half of the consultant population, of which I was one of them. And what they did, though, was they asked us all to rejoin as associate coaches and consultants. So I did the usual Kate thing and sulked for a couple of months and was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back into the corporate world, because my background's originally communications. So I worked in comms for 20 years. And it was actually that company that got me doing leadership development. I joined there as a comms consultant. And in the first week, the consultant director said, we actually really see something in you. We'd like you to do leadership development. So I was like, all right then. So they asked us to come back as an associate consultant. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, it's been really not a great time. I'm going to go back into the corporate world, and I'm going to go back to my comfort zone. I'm going to be a head of internal comms again. And I was having all of these interviews and getting through to final rounds and being offered positions and withdrawing from positions. And it was like something wasn't right. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought I would rather stick pins in my eyes than go back into that environment where actually I don't have as much autonomy or control over the work that I'm doing, that I have to work with different clients no matter who they are, or that, you don't know what the cultures are like until you're actually in these places. Yeah. So I licked my wounds a little bit, and then I called up Lane 4 again, and I said, you know what, actually, I would like to be an associate with you. And so they said, to do that, you have to have a limited business. So I was like, okay. And that's where Your Step Coach Limited was born.
Wow. So you went back and worked for them, but how did that then evolve to working with other companies?
So it was, as an associate, what you don't have to do a lot of is business development, because of course you're doing associate work for another company. So they sell the work to their clients. You then deliver their work as their employee, but through your own business. Right. So you're almost like a contractor, if you like. I quickly realized that at any given moment they could turn the tap off to giving work to me.
Wow.
So it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I have obviously got some choices here. So the first thing I did was become an associate with another 4 different companies who I still work with these days. So I get a good steady...
Spread the risk, yeah.
Right. So I get a good sort of like steady stream of work coming in from those companies. But then I also had to get over myself and start doing business development as well.
And that included marketing.
That included marketing.
And that's a really scary part, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs that start out with their small businesses. And we've talked about this many times with other people. You're really good at the skill that you're selling and the work that you do, but you don't have sales skills and marketing skills and social media skills and accounting skills and all of those other things that you need to learn to successfully grow or maintain a business, because you spread the risk by signing up with those other companies, but you still sort of felt the need to market yourself and establish yourself in your own right as your own brand, right? So where did you turn to after that to find those more clients?
So and in a way, it's a lot like the leadership development. You know, I work with a lot of new managers who are promoted because they're really good at their technical skills, but then they start leading people and it's like, that's a different ball game.
Yeah.
Because people aren't these inanimate beings with no emotions and no feelings. You know, they're not just going to point in that direction and off they go. So yeah, it's a bit of a comparison there, I guess, in terms of me running the business and being like, oh my God, I've got to do all of this stuff. The weird thing was, or the ironic thing, if you like, is that my background in communications means that I can actually write quite decent marketing copy. I just couldn't do it for myself.
And it's such a different game, isn't it?
Such a different
Especially, and I find this particularly with women. Men are, generally speaking, it's a complete generalization because there's definitely exceptions to the rule in people that I've worked with. Men tend to find it easier to talk positively about themselves and about their achievements. And women struggle more. Like I say, complete generalization, and they're absolutely exceptions to the rule. But the pattern that I've seen with my clients is men tend to be more comfortable in talking about the things that they're good at, and women really struggle to do that for whatever reasons. And we could do a whole podcast on that. And you were one of those people. You were you really struggled to talk about yourself and center your excellence in what you were creating online. But you need to do that, because if you don't, people hire somebody else that does. And quite often that is going to be a man, because they're more comfortable saying those things.
Look at all the amazing work I've done.
Yeah, right. And it's so uncomfortable at first for the vast majority of us to say, I'm actually really good at this, and this is why you should hire me. And this is how good results are that I got with people. How did you get over that? And I would say, and I might be out of turn saying this, you haven't got over it yet, right? Because I know you quite well, but you're better than you were.
Yeah.
And how did you get to that point?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. It is one of those things that it's a daily. It's not so much a battle anymore, but it's a daily. Give myself a talking to. You've got this. You know exactly what you're doing. You're building great relationships with people.
Yeah.
People are interested in what you've got to say. So
you're getting great results.
I'm getting really lovely results. I've got repeat customers, which is obviously brilliant. Showing up on that daily basis, the social media side of things, the engaging things, it depletes your energy. It can really take it out of you. But that's not to say I don't like doing it, because I've built some wonderful relationships with people who we talk to offline and stuff. But for me, I guess the biggest emotional journey throughout this whole thing has been battling shit from my childhood that just kept on rearing its head again, that I thought I dealt with. You know, I've had lots of therapy over years, and I thought, no, that's all locked away neatly in a little box. But the moment you feel slightly exposed is it comes back up with, and for me, the things that I had going on was, no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to believe anything you've got to say. People are going to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. You're going to get rejected.
But these are all things that you're actually telling yourself in your head, right?
Yeah.
Because they're ways we treat ourselves. We'll self-reject, we'll self-criticize, we'll have doubts about ourselves. And actually the behaviours we're fearing from other people are generally made up. Most of us don't get that, or it will be from people that really don't matter if they are saying those things, because they're never going to be your clients.
No.
How have you managed to build that confidence up to try and stop listening to those voices in your head and those fears that in the main part are completely fabricated? Then those aren't real. You are good at your job. You do know what you're talking about. You are successful and get successful results for your clients. How do you remind yourself of that so that you can market yourself and keep getting those clients?
So I use one of the tools that I use with a lot of my clients, actually myself, which is a belief and confidence wall. It's a really simple tool, but it's a way of, some people have like a brag file, just stick in your emails all of the different feedbacks you get, the great things.
We've talked about, yeah. I call mine my smile file.
Right? Yeah. So you look at it, it's like, do you know what? Yes, I have got this. A belief and confidence wall builds on that. It's listing out all of your achievements, the values that have helped you with that, your key attributes, all of those kind of things. And you just add to it. It doesn't have to be a big complicated, like massive spreadsheet or anything. It's just a way to just log all these things that are achievements that you've done that you can look back on. So I use that a lot. I also have my own coach. It would be, I don't think I'd be a very good coach myself if I didn't have my own coach. So I have my own coach. It's always useful to bounce things around and have that mirror held up to you, if you like. So, because a lot of the stuff we hold up and we make it true. Yeah. Thoughts become things, that kind of thing. And unless you've got someone holding that mirror up to you to make you question actually what is really true here, you run the risk of then acting out those beliefs. So I have my own coach, and also I carry on with therapy for all of the reasons, the fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, the other stuff that deals with. I think it's really important that we're able to lean into that and work through stuff.
I think that's something that people don't talk about a lot. For a start, finding the right coach is really important. And it's not, and the same with therapists, right? Finding the right therapist that does the right style for you. And I've tried different types of therapy. Psychotherapy was my favorite, but I've tried a few different types to help me over certain points. It's not constant for me, but it's when I'm facing something that's particularly difficult, rather than trying to struggle through on my own, reaching out and finding that support from somebody that can really help. I'm interested to sort of understand how it's impacted. So it's been kind of nearly 4 years since you've been doing this yourself, which is amazing. Your daughter would have been, 8 at the time?
She was, yeah.
So, and you've got another child and a stepchild as well.
So I have my daughter, Frankie, who's 12, and my stepson, Noah, who is nearly 9.
Nearly 9, so 2 children. So how has it impacted your family life, running your business, as opposed to what your life was like when you were working for another company before COVID?
So with starting the business during COVID brought its own challenges because there was homeschooling as well.
Trying to get a business off the ground when you've got children at home and you're not allowed out of your bubble.
Yeah, and she never fails to stop reminding me just how bad a teacher I was during this.
I outsourced it to my lovely next door neighbour that I bubbled with because my son would not listen. So.
Yeah, I was not good. There was times we'd be sat at the dinner table looking at the laptop, looking at the homework, and she'd be going, "I don't understand it." And I'd be going, "I don't understand it either."
My son's 9 next week, and I don't understand any of his maths homework. No. I'm like,
it's
what?
Just
thankfully one of my best friends is a primary school teacher, so I just take photos and like, amazing. What does this mean? Thankfully, I'd be stuck otherwise. Yeah. So how did it affect, like, that obviously had its own challenges. Homeschooling was just, we got through it.
We did.
We made it out on the other side.
And, we got through it sort of by the seat of our pants, but I think actually I came out of it stronger.
And you're setting a really good example for her now. I mean, you're launching a business alongside her to encourage that. So do you feel like she's taken a lot of strength and encouragement from seeing you out on your own?
She's an amazing girl. She's got a very strong mind. She's not backwards in coming forwards in telling
which
me
I'm sure has its own challenges.
Which brings its own challenge. She's also a bit taller than me now as well, which isn't hard. But so when she's given me sass, she looks down at me. So that's always really interesting to deal with. But I guess how it impacted me at the time was everything I was doing for the business meant working late at night. So the content creation, I would literally crawl into bed with my laptop and just spend hours on Canva, just like, oh my God, I just need to make more stuff and just get this bank of content. And I think that's probably something that I've carried through. That's the thing I struggle with most, the content creation. Not because I don't have the content, but because making the time to create it. And there's been lots of people I've spoken to that have been like, it's about time you got a VA, Kate, to do this. And I'm like, you're raised and you're like, yes, Kate, I am one of those people that's told you this. Yes, I do need to get a VA to do my content creation. Help me with that at least.
I've got a great recommendation for you.
Amazing. So I guess that's one of the struggles, was like the late nights and trying to juggle everything. But then what I take from that, you know, from what that time I put in then to get the business to this point, I'll be honest, when I set the business up in 2020, there's not a part of me that thought in 4 years' time I'm still going to be running my own business.
It was just to get me through COVID.
Yeah, genuinely, I thought I was going to go back to the corporate world, get another job, have a regular salary and be like safe.
What stopped you?
Because even if you have a regular salary in a corporate job, you're still not safe.
And that's going to be one of the core reasons people listening, you know, the target market for this podcast is predominantly people who have a small business, are side hustling with the view to going full time, or are thinking about starting something that they eventually want to leave a job and have something that's their own and they have that control over. And I think there's a big myth involved in, you know, you're going to just start a business and everything's going to be brilliant and you're going to be off on a yacht, spa days, and it's not like that.
The social
the social media filter and the sort of, it's really easy. It's not easy. Those first few years especially, and for some people it can go on for 10 years, but for the first few years especially, you sacrifice. There will be things that you sacrifice, and especially for people like us, and there's a lot of them that started their businesses because of the pandemic, because of furlough, and they had the opportunity to give something a shot, or they were forced to give something a shot. That was even more challenging because we were juggling all sorts of things, and the isolation and the fear and the anxiety that the pandemic brought. But we have this kind of, I don't know, I find that people have this disillusion that it's just going to be easy and the clients are going to come. And actually the reality of it is, and you had clients immediately when you started, but you've had to keep a pipeline going, and you've had to make sure that you are creating content so that you can continue to market and you continue to fill that pipeline of work for the future. And, you know, even if you can't serve them all at once. How has things changed? But that first year, obviously COVID wasn't necessarily a fair reflection of what people would experience now if they started a business, but maybe from like year 2 to where you are now, what's changed in how you run your business and also how you feel about your business? Because you didn't want to go back to corporate.
No.
And yes, being a business owner isn't safe, but you're a lot more in control.
And I think that's the thing, is there was a realization that, you know, I could go back to corporate. Yes, I'd have a job. But I've been made redundant, and I've been made redundant 3 times.
That's a gut punch, isn't
it? So it is. The first 2 times were, well, the first time I've been working at the place for 14 years. It was time for me to go, so I had the opportunity to take it. The second time I had the opportunity to take redundancy, and I was glad to see the back of the place. And the third time was probably the most heartbreaking, because I loved that job so much. It was like I'd finally found something that I felt like I was meant to do, which was the leadership development piece. I was able to bring in coaching. I trained as a coach after I lost my job for the second time. So I was able to bring in all of those skills, and I loved it. I think what that job did was make me realize that when I lost that job, it wasn't personal, because they asked me to go back. It became okay, so they actually don't think that I'm shit at my job. They want me back. They literally just have to lose the permanent headcount, if you like. So that was a real sort of eye opener, that actually it's not personal. But what's changed has been that, you know, we had our conversation. So I set up the business in August 2020. I spoke to you in August 2021. I have joined several different business programs, if you like. Some have been really good. Some have been not that great. And my accountant always says to me, so the first thing I did when I set the business was I got an accountant. So despite the fact that I'm still resisting getting a VA, I'm not averse to actually outsourcing stuff because I know I'm no good with numbers.
I'm the exact same. Accountant was my first hire with every business I've had.
It's like that needs to be safe. I need someone who really knows what they're doing there. So and she's been absolutely phenomenal, and I will keep her for as long as she'll have me as her client. But she does laugh. She's like, I can't believe you invested that in that and you're talking like this. And I'm like, I know. So there's been lessons along the way. But there's, been really, really good lessons as well. And like I stuck with you because I think do you know what I think it was? It was how personable you were when we were talking. And I had a bit of a hangover when we had our one-to-one as well.
Cut that bit. No, don't. It's fine.
And you humoured that, and just sort of like talked me through everything in a way that was like, do you know what? Actually, I can do this. It still took me. So after we spoke, after we had that one-to-one, I did start posting a little bit, but I was still very corporate Colin. I was still really sort of like.
I remember.
I was not one of those people that you recommend and tag.
I did today.
And then I started doubting myself again. So I disappeared off LinkedIn for 6 months because I was just like, I can't be doing this and focusing on the business. It's too much. It got quite overwhelming.
Such a juggle, isn't it?
So I disappeared for a bit. And then something happened. And I don't know to this day what happened, but I woke up one day and I thought, this is crazy. None of these people that I'm worried about pay my bills.
And that's crucial, isn't it?
Right.
That's just like an epiphany moment.
Yeah. And from then on, I haven't looked back. So I was scheduling all of this content, and the LinkedIn scheduler has been a lifesaver for me because it's one of those things that I then don't have to think about it on a daily basis, which I think a lot of people worry about. It's like, what am I going to post today? And I'm like, just use a scheduler, block out a couple of hours, get what you want done and schedule it out. So that was a real lifesaver. And then I started posting, and then, do you know what? I had my first corporate client come inbound to me. And it was quite a big program that we were talking about, and it didn't turn out as planned, but we did some work off the back of it. Yeah. So that was a real like, oh, actually, this works,
and it's worth doing,
and
prioritizing.
Yeah.
Excuse me for briefly interrupting our guest, but I need to tell you about my business baby, The Holt. I started The Holt in June 2022 to create a supportive place where small business owners, solopreneurs, freelancers and side hustlers could learn essential business skills at an affordable price while coming together to network and support each other and our businesses. Every month, members get live Q&As and problem solving on tech, sales and marketing, plus 4 or more masterclasses on skills such as copywriting, finances, sales, social media, branding, mindset, confidence, resilience, graphic design, automation, AI, and so much more. We also host weekly community calls to meet fellow members, content creation hours and monthly wellbeing circles, and in everything we do, we encourage collaboration, regular communication, and most essentially, mutual respect and kindness. The Holt is where the square pegs of the business world fit perfectly. So if you've never felt like you quite belong in business, we're the community for you. Visit the-holt.com for more information and to get on the waiting list now. We're opening again soon, and we'd love for you to join us. Now, back to our guest.
Would you say at this point now, when it comes to the content that you're putting out and who you are as a businesswoman, that you've continued to, and it's not always, a straight line up, but you've continued to grow and grow in confidence.
Yeah.
What do you think's been the key in helping you to grow that confidence? Is it the people around you, the jobs that you've got, the clients? Like what has been the bit that you've drawn the most confidence from?
I think it's been a mashup of all of that. There's been a lot of it has been a mindset thing for me. So realizing that, all of these other people who have put themselves out there, they are all in the same boats. They're all just trying to grow their business and build great relationships. No one I meet is a knob. I mean, okay, there are occasional ones and they get blocked.
Yeah.
But
best way.
Absolutely. But it's depersonalizing things. And, I think when you're thinking about putting yourselves out there, it's easy to make everything about you.
Yeah.
And It's right. It's like going to the gym. Okay. So I started going to the gym in January this year because I'm getting married on New Year's Eve and I don't want to have big arms in my dress. Right. So I started going to the gym. Right. I've always told myself I hate the gym. I will not set foot in a gym because there's all these like people in there who are looking all like amazing and
they will know what they're doing.
Right. And I am not one of those people.
No.
What I've realised is that every other person who is in the gym, no one's looking at you. They're either looking at themselves in the mirror, they're either on their phone or they're concentrating on what they're doing.
Yeah.
And there are people in there of all shapes and sizes who are just looking to be better.
Yeah.
And it's like that.
And it's the same
in the
on
business
LinkedIn.
world. It's
and you're
exactly
not,
like that.
when you're posting on social media or you're starting a business, you're not going to know everything straight away. And it's just showing up every day and giving it a go.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit better every time.
Yeah.
And some people get really good really quickly.
Yeah.
And some people take a lot more time. But everybody's going in the same direction and there's really no rush to get to it. Well, you know, you've got a deadline because you've got a wedding to... But when it comes to business, there isn't a rush.
No.
And it's, well, you know, you want to be able to pay your bills, but there's no rush to suddenly become £1 million business.
No.
And it's not always, you see so many people saying, oh, I'm doing this, oh, I'm doing this. And it's not the case. No one's, not many of them are as successful as they would have you believe straight away. So when you decided to go out on your own, I know personally that my business growth and the changes that happened to me in that time meant that I lost some friendships. Now, I don't mean that people were horrible to me and the friendship, but they kind of burned out because I found that I was changing so much inside and my priorities were changing and my conversations were changing. The things that I was interested in were changing. And I found that I couldn't find the commonalities with some of my old friendships. And I also found there were some people that made me feel like I was holding myself back. They were confirming my fears. Okay. So it was almost like they were very risk averse. They were employed and the idea of starting a business was very alien to them. And they would come at me with, but what if? And they were things that were already in my head. And I was like, no, I don't want to listen to that. I need to listen to the people that say, no, you can. Not, but what if you can't? Were there people in your life that, as you have changed and grown as a business owner, that have maybe impacted how you felt about yourself in positive and negative ways?
That's an interesting one. So in short, no, I've been really lucky.
That's amazing.
But that's only because I have such a small friendship group already because I lost the majority of my friends in my 20s when I started changing as a person then.
Right, okay.
So it was, throughout my teens and my early 20s, I was what you could only describe as a wild child.
Me too.
I look at my daughter and I think, as long as you don't be like me, everything's going to be fine.
Or as long as if you're going to be like me, you at least come out the other side like I did.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. So far, she's showing no signs of being like I was going into my teens.
Yeah.
So I went off the rails in spectacular style.
Yeah, I was the same.
So it was sort of around about my late 20s that I started shifting and realising that actually I needed to sort all of these demons out. So at that point, I shed quite a lot of everything that was around me. So my friends, God, that's a tongue twister, isn't it? My friendship circle is really small and really tight.
Yeah.
And so they've stuck with me. There are people in my family who cannot get their head around what I do. It's like I've said to my dad before, now you never ask about the business. You're not interested. And he's like, in all honesty, love, I don't really understand it. So I'm like,
my family are the same.
Fair enough.
I find having conversations and, you know, I love my grandparents to bits, but they don't, I could talk to them for hours and they try to show curiosity, but they don't really understand. Yeah. And we're living in a digital world now, and so much of what I do and with you, it revolves so much around online and marketing and social media, and you know they can barely post a photo on Facebook, and it's you know that's the sum of their technological advancement. And even my mum and her husband, they struggle sometimes, and I think that's quite typical for business owners to find that maybe the people around them, when they start their business, they might not understand quite what it is. They're not unhappy for you, that they'll support you, but they don't
get
necessarily. And that's why it's so important to also develop friendships with other business owners. Have you found that, like, having new friends that are business owners that you can talk to about the unique journey of being a business owner, right? That the roller coaster emotionally, the ups and downs, the people that you can say, oh my God, I've had a 10K month or 20K month, or, you know, I've just signed my first biggest client. How valuable is that for you to have those people where you don't have to edit yourself and play it down when something really good or really bad happens?
Yeah, it's really special. So this year, my business was set to hit a goal that I set when it first started, which was to turn over 6 figures.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then some workshops out of the pipeline.
Oh.
So not so much congrats, but it was one of those moments that I was doing the forecast and I was like, oh my God, we're actually going to do it.
Wow.
And I texted one of my friends, Jules, who I do quite a bit of work with. And when I went around to see her to do some prep for some other work, she had like a bottle of Prosecco and stuff for me and stuff. So it was such nice that someone can go, do you know what? Well done. You've done, this is all on you. You've done so well.
To give yourself that pat on the back that we're so bad at giving ourselves.
Yeah.
Because you do really need that, don't you?
Yeah.
Because other business owners get what it means. Yeah. And 6 figures is not the goal for everybody, you know. And for me, when I hit 6 figures, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And it didn't even enter my head about hitting 7 figures. I'm not asked about hitting 7 figures. Like, great if I do, but I don't need that much money to be a very happy and content person that can afford everything I would need in life. Yeah. But you need to have those people where you don't have to feel bad. Yeah. And your employed friends that maybe would never hit 6 figures, they'd never be on a 6-figure salary. That sounds, I don't know, you almost feel like you're bragging or you're being self-absorbed or you're rubbing it in their faces. And that might not be how they receive it, but it can feel like that sometimes.
I think it can do. And I'm really lucky with the circle I keep, who they are just so proud that I've taken this, you know, what was a really shit time of losing my job and trying to get another job, but then realizing that absolutely that's not what I wanted to do. Setting up a business, finding my own way. They really celebrate me. And I think that's so important that you have people like that in your corner who do celebrate you. And it's something I say to Frankie a lot, is that, you know, if she's got friends around her who don't get excited when she does something good, who have a flash go across their face like, oh, well, I'm doing this instead, you know, they're not your people.
And that's a hard lesson to learn. At any age, that's a hard lesson to learn. And it's definitely something that I've experienced, not necessarily with current friends or friends that I was very close to, but acquaintances that I'd met in the past who you knew that they weren't necessarily, they would smile and say the right things. You could see it in their eyes, you could hear it in their tone, that there was some envy there or resentment. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because I personally know that when people around me are succeeding, people that I care about, I am nothing but happy for them and full of encouragement. I am a perpetual cheerleader for those around me. And it probably wouldn't have always been that way. I think when I was younger, I probably would have had that flash of resentment. But now I'm surrounded by so many people that are doing better than me or are on their way to reaching the same success level. And I mean financial success level, that I am constantly there cheering them on. But there's definitely been people, and some people have struggled through the resentment and they're now happy for me and I haven't lost those relationships. And then there's been some people that I've gone, it's better for me not to have you in my life. And it's not because I don't like them as people. I think they're good people, but they're just, they don't suit the journey that I'm on anymore. And there's that old cliche that some people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And there are definitely people in my life that have been there for a really good reason. I've taken great lessons from them, learned some tough lessons from them. There are people that are definitely there for a season, the party season, the new motherhood season, the broke single mum season and now the sort of successful entrepreneur season. The people that I'm meeting now in this season of my life, I feel like they're people that are here to stay because they're happy to see me win, and I'm really happy to see them win, and I want to help them win. And that those people are so precious. And I encourage any entrepreneur or new business owner, you need to find those people.
It's so important. And it's like
they spur you on.
They do,
right?
they do. And I think the thing is as well is that, you know, for people who perhaps feel that envy, and I would probably say in my 20s, when I was in that different stage of my life, before all of the healing work and stuff, I would have been one of those people that would have been like, oh my God, how is someone earning that much doing that? That's not fair, you know. And it's like, actually get over yourself, because what these people are doing is showing you it's possible.
And that was that thing for me. That was such a pivotal moment for me when I logged on to LinkedIn for the first time. As much as I hated it when I first logged on, I had been running a business for like 8 years and I'd been barely scraping minimum wage, working ridiculous hours. And I thought that was the sum of all I was capable of. I didn't think I was good at anything more than typing very fast and English. Like I was good at grammar and English.
You had a crazy typing speed.
Yeah, and I was really, really fast at typing. I was like, this is all I'll ever be able to do, because all I was told at school was you go to school, you get your GCSEs, get your A-levels, you go to uni, you get a job, you do a job for somebody else till you retire and then you die. And that was it. That was the path I was on. And then I'd started a business and I was like, well, I've always been told that if you're going to look like that and you don't get a degree, you'll never make anything of your life, you know? And I was like, okay, I just accepted that as fact, until I was in a job where I was working for two guys, building surveyors who were 27 when they'd left their jobs and set up that consultancy. And I went, oh, I'm 26. Maybe I could do that. And that was when I set up the typing business as a side hustle. But when I got onto LinkedIn, I was seeing women like me, mums, women who were as smart as I was, probably a bit smarter than I was, that didn't necessarily go to uni, and they had these businesses. And I was like, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And I'd never seen women like that. There's no female entrepreneurs in my family. No. And I went, this is new. And it took me till I was 34 years old to see women ahead of me that I felt like I was capable of what they were capable of. And I think that's another real lesson, is if you want to be successful in business, you've got to be around people that are doing what you want to do. Maybe not in the same industry. It doesn't have to be the same industry, but set an example for you. And I'm in such a lucky position now that I can be that woman for other women that look to me and go, I want to be able to do what she's doing. But I wouldn't be doing that unless it was women ahead of me that I saw and went, oh, you're amazing. And that's, you know, there'll be people that are looking at you as that now because you're sharing it online. You can be that example, whether they're letting you know that you're that for them or not. There will be other people that go, wow, look at what Kate's done. Well, how amazing is that? I could do that now. Maybe I can do that.
And you know what? That's what is brilliant about the Holt, right? Is that there's this community, and I know I don't show up often in the community. And a lot of that comes down to the overwhelm of the whole sort of like, I'm doing the engagement online as well. It's hard to show up there as well. But when I do, people are always really welcoming. When I decided to set up Roam the Rainbow with Frankie, I contacted Carly Denton.
Oh yeah, right? She's amazing.
And because I think she'd only recently joined the Whole.
She's out in Dubai now.
Yeah, so I kept seeing her posts on LinkedIn, and I was like, she's doing the kind of stuff, or she's done the kind of stuff that I've just been talking with Frankie about. So I dropped her a note and just said, I'm in the Holt too. Lovely to connect. I've seen your posts. This is what I'm thinking of doing with my daughter. Any tips? And she sent me some really helpful things. That what it meant I could do was get my ducks in a row, essentially, so that me and Frankie could then work logically and look at actually what we wanted to do and focus, you know, who our audience was, that kind of thing. That's what's brilliant when you've got that network, that people are happy to support you. They will cheerlead you on. They're happy to share their knowledge. It's not like they're going to sit on their knowledge and go, oh my gosh, there's going to be too much competition, because you've experienced that along the way as well, don't you?
Yeah,
so,
we've all experienced people that treat us as competition. I've definitely had it. I've had people copying my work. I've had people that have, not wanted to bring me into conferences because I'm a direct competitor, so they don't want me there. There's all sorts of things like that, but I think it highlights the importance of having a supportive community around you. And that doesn't necessarily mean people from the same industry. It doesn't necessarily mean people that are even business owners, but it means we can't do this on our own. We might call ourselves solopreneurs, but none of us are really doing it solo, are we? We need, whether it's an accountant and a VA, or it's people around us that are informal mentors that we can sound off a business idea to, that goes, that's probably not the best, but you could try it this way, or, give it a go. And it's just having that outside, impartial, but understands what you're experiencing and isn't just going to go, no, that's too scary, that's too risky. People that will push you outside of your comfort zone and challenge you and hold that mirror up.
So important.
And you have that with a coach, you have it with a therapist, but you'll also have it with your community around you, your colleagues, your associates. It's so valuable. So if you could give yourself advice based on what you know now, 4 years into it, if you could say something to yourself, maybe not that first year, because that was such a unique 1 year, but at the end of your first year, is there like a piece of advice that you would give to Kate of 3 years ago that would help you to get to where you are now in a more linear fashion?
I don't know if it's ever going to be a linear fashion, is it really? It's like,
I mean, emotionally, mentally.
Do you know what I would say to myself is stop putting so much pressure on yourself to do everything, to be everything all the goddamn time.
That's really valuable advice.
I went from posting 5 days a week, and I know some people post 7 days a week, and from them being scheduled as well, to realizing that was too much for what I was doing at the time. So narrowed the content creation down. I now do it 3 days a week. Saying that, I just had August off altogether. I literally did not post. I maybe went on, I maybe engaged a little bit. The business was still obviously working in the background, but that is one of the benefits of working for yourself. I was able to spend the entire summer holidays with my kids.
Wow.
So
and I bet when you started your business, you never imagined that you'd be able to do that.
Never in a million years.
And it wouldn't have happened that first year. It probably wouldn't have even happened the second year. But you get to that point and you've been consistent. You've built your confidence. You've built great relationships with repeat clients. And you've nurtured everything around you. You've done amazingly. And I hope you do actually take time to pat yourself on the back, because from when I knew you 3 years ago, where you are now, even though we put so much pressure on ourselves and we're like, well, why am I not that 6-7 figure business yet? You've massively, you've reached probably goals that you weren't expecting to, and being able to take the whole summer off, that's a hell of a goal. That's the kind of thing that I didn't even manage to do that. I couldn't have done that completely. I did it a lot more. I was a lot less hands-on than I have been over previous years, but that's an exceptional milestone to have reached in a business.
Yeah, really.
And we'll talk about you finding a VA, because you need to listen to your own advice. But then we all need to listen to our own advice more, don't we? Kate, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to how people are going to receive this, because I think you've touched on some really, really important points that are very, very relatable. And I appreciate the journey up here. And thank you again to Bronson for being so well behaved.
Thanks for having me on, Leah.
Before you go, I just need to tell you about our brilliant podcast sponsor that aligns so well with our own mission at The Holt. While seasoned podcaster Wendy C was consoling a friend about a toxic workplace experience, she realised that workplace abuse is so widespread, and yet so many people are suffering in silence, often alone. Safe Space from the Workplace is a new podcast for everyone. If you find yourself in a toxic workplace, you're a leader or business owner feeling out of your depth, or you have a friend or family member struggling at work, this podcast is for you. Wendy will be talking about everything workplace related, including survivor stories and speaking to experts specialising in tools to cope with burnout, discrimination, redundancy, grievances, medical issues, women's health, and so much more. The podcast aims to empower employees and educate leaders and business owners, and help people who find themselves in toxic workplaces to realise that they're not alone. Subscribe to the Safe Space from the Workplace podcast on the links below. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.